another edition of Fear LA Presents Up in the Rafters with your host, the lovable Lakers fan, Mark Gonzales, and with your other host, who doesn't root for any team.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Zac Elk.
And welcome to another edition of Fear LA Presents Up in the Rafters. Yeah.
Hey.
It is our second time being away from that other place, but that's okay. We won't mention their name anymore because we're doing better. We're fine. Anyway.
Yeah, we're fine. We're doing me, especially me, since I'm filming live from Skid Row, as you see. I'm doing great. I haven't been robbed yet. Been stabbed, but not robbed. So I still have my wallet.
And I'm blocked away. I'm still at the place that is on the other side of the old name, right? Like,
yeah, they forgot to change that side of the building because it's still.
Yeah, that's weird that the sign is still up. Like that crypto.com deal must have really not gone through. Like they just put the Staples sign back up.
But might as well. I know crypto's still crashing, right? I believe that's the scenario is.
They're like, hey, both teams didn't make the playoffs. It's fine.
But crypto.com was like, we don't want our names attached to this anymore. Just put the Staples sign back up there until the fall.
Yeah, for overpriced pins.
My favorite meme was probably how it was like when crypto started to fall, it's like Spirit Halloween.
I did see that one. Yeah, that was great.
All right. So as you can tell, if you're listening, whether it's on Spotify or SoundCloud, we have another voice. Mark, who is that other voice?
Well, you've seen his tweets on Twitter. You've seen him on Silver Screen and Roll. You've seen him all over everyone's timeline. You're one of your favorite. I would say, like, you're more than just a beat writer. You're a personality. Harrison Faigen, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I want to say. One of the guys.
I'm happy to be here and actually able to see you this time. I feel like this is the first one of these that we've done on Zoom. I'm always like calling in, so this is nice.
Yeah, we're moving up in the technology world, I guess. We're taking advantage of certain things.
Yeah, no, you finally got a Zoom login, like 3 years after everyone else did.
Of course. Yeah, we're right on track. We're on track with everything.
The funny thing is like Mark and I were very hesitant when the pandemic happened on doing Zoom comedy shows. We're like, no way, man, no way, we're not gonna bow down.
It's not pure.
It's still that I think people still try to do it, and it's just like, no, it's just nothing like that live audience. Like, I'd rather risk my life than protect it over a camera than do it in person. But no, it's good to see you. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Zach?
There's always that gap of time from when you hit the punchline to be like, it's so embarrassing.
Well, yeah, and then that's even worse over like the phone. So you guys were just saying, you guys can see each other. You're setting me up to fail. I can't tell when you're kidding or not, and so this is much better.
That's true. So how are you, Harrison? How are things during the off season for you so far?
It's the last couple of weeks were crazy with free agency and all of that stuff. And then, this week I've been filling in a little bit more at SSR again because, there's all kinds of Kyrie trade rumors and all this stuff going on. And, so yeah, it's been kind of an insane offseason when it starts with, on the first day of free agency, Kevin Durant demanding a trade like 6 hours before it kicks off. And then that leads to all this free agency weirdness, and now like DeAndre Ayton's like kind of stuck, and so it's a weird off season for the NBA. Now you have, I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but the latest stuff on Kyrie and whether or not he wants to be moved and his level of commitment to the Nets franchise. So yeah, it's been unique, but the NBA is always crazy during this time of year.
Yeah, we got. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, sorry, you just wrote about it on Silver Screen and Roll. So this is going to come out Wednesday morning, but at the same time, Brian Lewis of the New York Post said, another source close to Irving told the Post that the all-star point guard not only never asked for a trade, but has every intention of playing for Brooklyn. Now, to me, that doesn't sound like it's aligning with what Laker fans or even Los Angeles fans are seeing. I mean, Clipper fans are probably nervous because they don't want to see another all-star point guard go to the Lakers. And you had Kyrie Irving at the Sparks game turn around and say like, oh, I'm soon going to be a Laker or whatever.
Yeah, and then you had at Summer League with Russ in attendance, you had Lakers fans chanting for Rob and LeBron to trade for Kyrie. It was it's just been like the unintentional comedy scale of this whole saga has been kind of off the charts to the point. And then like I thought that the LeBron and Russ cannot pretend to be friendly for 30 seconds at a nationally televised NBA Summer League was going to be the peak of how funny this could possibly get. But then, you know, you have today where someone close to Kyrie Irving, who, you know, who can say who someone close to Kyrie Irving that speaks a little bit like a lawyer representing their client's interests, you know, in the New York Post could be, but is saying like he has affirmed his commitment to the franchise by opting in and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're telling me to like, don't look at the whole like we requested a sign and trade behind the curtain over here, and you know we ended up opting in because like Kyrie couldn't find any better options in free agency or anyone that wanted to pay him what he wanted, and so he ends up opting back into the contract. And it's like, yeah, you know, he never wanted to leave. He opted into his 1-year deal because he loves the Nets so much. It has nothing to do with that no one else wanted to pay him the amount of money that he had on his player option with the Nets. No, just ignore that. It was just that he loves Brooklyn, loves the Nets, wants to be there. Now, if the Nets want to trade him, that's a whole other thing. And like throwing the ball back in their court, it's incredible. And I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little too drama based now. Like I feel like this is turning a little bit into pro wrestling now, where it's like I kind of feel like this is just staged for either attention or for business or for just obviously just money. But it's just, I don't know. Do you feel like this is kind of becoming kind of a clown show now? Like it's just like, what are we doing exactly now? Like, is this even focused on basketball?
I mean, this thing today was almost satirical, like in the sense of like just the idea that like we're supposed to believe that Kyrie is totally committed to the Nets because he opted into a 1-year deal after pursuing sign and trades. And like we're supposed to like uncritically be like, yeah, no, good point. That really does seem like he wants to play for the Nets. And there were no other motivations for possibly doing that other than wanting to play for the Nets. And like, you know, it's everything is public negotiation or public posturing. And especially in a weird saga like this, where there's all these kind of disparate camps where everyone wants something different. The Nets are, of course, they want to hold out for the best deal that they can get. But right now, the Lakers don't want to offer the best deal that they can give because they're like, why do we want to bid against ourselves? But then you have, you know, like the LeBron camp and the Kyrie camp that are like, hey, we want to kind of get this done because we want to get to LA, kind of get this announced, you know, start marketing around it, all this stuff. And it's just like, you have a bunch of parties with different motivations and different goals. And so it ends up in like sort of a messy leak off, similar to, you know, like the AD trade saga at the trade deadline in 2020 or in, yeah, that was 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, I've been seeing a lot of trade rumors in terms of what has been sent for Kevin Durant. And I'm not sure how true they are. I mean, I'm seeing like 1st-round draft picks, like at least 4 of them, plus 2 superstars from like multiple teams. It's ridiculous. Like, how true are these trade rumors to the Nets?
I mean, I think that I would imagine that they're mostly accurate of what the Nets are asking for, because it's like any negotiation any of us have ever done. Like, you always ask for more than you actually want because, you know, you're hoping that, you know, whatever the offer comes in at, it'll still be most of what you actually wanted. And so the Nets are starting from a place of, you know, they can correctly point to, look at what Utah just got for Rudy Gobert. Like, we should be getting all this insane amount of stuff for Kevin Durant if that's what Rudy Gobert is going for. A guy who gets like, you know, at times played off the floor in the playoffs or has had his struggles, certainly. And Kevin Durant, you know, like whether you're his biggest fan or his biggest critic, I'm not sure that there's a single person on the planet who thinks that Rudy Gobert is a better basketball player than Kevin Durant. And so the Nets, of course, they're asking for the moon, you know, in any Kevin Durant trade. And that's why, you know, again, like all this stuff is going to take a while because those other teams, they don't want to give up all that stuff. And they're like, okay, well, here's our best offer. And we don't necessarily think that team X or team Y can outbid that. So we're going to offer you this. We aren't going to give you everything you want, but here's something that we consider reasonable. And they'll go back and forth. And then once that eventually gets done, you know, the Kyrie situation will sort itself out. But I also get from the Nets side, like they want to get the maximum return for KD. And then you deal with the Kyrie situation because, you know, they can't trade Kyrie when they're probably not going to get that much for him. And you want to figure out what your roster is going to look like post the KD trade. If you're getting like 4 players back in that deal or something like that, some really uneven trade, you're going to have to do all kinds of roster stuff and, potentially cutting guys or moving guys in other deals to make room for those guys that are coming back in that trade. And so there's just like, this is going to be really complicated. And I know we live in like an instant gratification society. Look, I get it. I wish this was done because I know that it's going to break on my wedding day, like next month. And so like, that's just the way that these things go. I would love for them to get a trade done now. I just don't think that it's going to happen. Like, this feels like the type of thing that's going to drag into August.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, do you feel like it's gonna drag for quite some time, like right before, like I guess, like when I guess training camp starts? Like, do you think it'll get to that point?
That's my guess. I think it'll probably be a few weeks before training camp. That's usually when this stuff starts to happen. The Lakers are going to have more motivation to get this done once they can officially kind of enter into LeBron extension talks in August. And so, maybe at that point they start pushing more of their cards into the table, even though technically, as pretty much every single team has leaked, there's no other suitors for Kyrie Irving. They're willing to kind of outbid themselves a little bit just to get it done, get LeBron's extension done, kind of move into this next era, move off of Russ, kind of regret. Because that's the thing, right? Is, I talked about this on the Silver Screen and Roll podcast earlier this week, but I know Darvin Ham can say whatever he wants about, oh, we're going to use Russell Westbrook better. We have all these plans, all this stuff. It's like, you're telling me that LeBron and Russ cannot fake a handshake or pretend to be nice to each other for all of 30 seconds at Las Vegas Summer League, knowing how many eyes and cameras and reporters and like everyone, fans are going to be paying attention to them. They can't play nice for 30 seconds to like fake it, but we're expected to believe that you're going to bring Russ into training camp and that's going to be a productive environment where you try to establish like your new system to go into the year with. Like, no, that's not something that's going to happen. And so eventually, in the Nets, you're telling me that they're going to bring KD and Kyrie into camp. Those two K names really throw you off a little bit. We're expected to believe that they're going to bring those guys into camp with how disruptive that Kyrie has shown he's able to be, over this stuff. Like, I don't buy any of it. And so I just think that it's everyone starting out a little bit more stubborn. And it's, my friend Aaron Larsoul, who does like a podcast over at SSR, likes to say deadlines create action. And I think that once we get closer to that LeBron extension, once we get closer to training camp, it's going to be a little bit of like a drop dead date. And both of these teams are going to be more motivated to get things done for various reasons. Like the Nets don't want to go into camp with this. Like,
yeah.
I'm trying to look up the trade real quick, but according to one of the sources from The Athletic, it's supposed to be Russell Westbrook, a first-round draft pick, and a second-round draft pick for Kyrie. That's what the Lakers sent, and the Nets say they want 2 first-rounders. I mean,
yeah,
doesn't that sound steady?
And that's the thing where, like, I know Jovan from The Athletic was talking about this on the radio last night. He was saying that he thinks that if the Lakers were willing to offer 2 firsts, that the deal would be done already. And there were a lot of people saying like, oh, like, I don't like reacting to that. And it's like, no, I mean, that like factually, there's no way that can't be true because all the most the Lakers can offer is 2 firsts. And so if the Nets weren't interested in the most they can offer, then there would be no conversations or no trade talks to have anyway, because if you don't want the best offer that a team can make, then there's no point in negotiating with them because you don't want anything that they can offer. And so, like, I do think that at some point, like, of course the Nets want 2 first-round picks for Kyrie. Like, they don't want to bring him into camp. It would be great to get 2 first-round picks for a guy who's never going to play another game for them. But at the same time, when you continually have, it's like, I remember Tim McMahon of ESPN was talking about, he texted like a Maverick source or something when all this was going down. Hey, would you guys, you're interested in Kyrie? Would you kind of go for it? And he said that he got a profane reply from the front office person saying like, and when it's like that level of like, can I curse on here? When it's like that level of when it's that level of fuck no, like we don't want this guy, like the Nets don't have any other suitors here and they can't even fake it. They can't they can leak whoever they want. And immediately these teams come out and like text multiple reporters like, no. We do not want Kyrie Irving. That's okay. Like, don't believe that report. And so it's, it's clearly like a toxic environment for both sides. Neither of these sides want their point guard. Obviously Kyrie has more value. So there's going to be something attached to Russ to eventually get this done. It's just going to be a matter of like who blinks first and what that ultimate package ends up looking like.
It's really interesting to me that for Russ it's on the court and for Kyrie it's off the court. Is that really what everyone's kind of like with the Nets? I mean, obviously Kyrie can be kind of a headache, as we all kind of know, but is it really more of like his off court shenanigans than his on court?
It does seem like it based on the reports. It sounds like their owner is pretty upset with how things have gone over the last year. And it's sort of, like, I mean, it's like, how do most like billionaires react when people are not kind of doing what they want? They're like, well, get rid of that guy. They're not used to being told, like, I don't want to show up and collect my paycheck. Like, I don't care about the money. Like, I'm not going to show up and like play these games because this is what I believe. And they're not used to like players saying like, oh, me and Kevin and, the front office, we're going to run this team and kind of shepherd it into the future together. Like, like the Nets owner, I'm sure wants to just kind of be done with this experiment. And like, I do think that, for the Lakers, I think with Russ, I don't think that it's just an on-court thing. I know that the organization likes him as a person, but I don't know how anyone in that front office, anyone on the coaching staff could have watched how things went last year and how toxic it got both in the film room, like kind of off the court in terms of giving him feedback, and then on the court in terms of how bad the fit was. Like, I think it's a little bit of both with him, to be honest, because I don't think that anyone there truly believes that Russ is going to kind of play a different way than he has ever played, and in a way that he's never shown a commitment to doing, and that like, oh, okay, year 14 or whatever this is for his career, like that's finally going to be the time he starts cutting off the ball and playing active defense and all this stuff. Like, it's like the Arrested Development meme. Like, it didn't work for those people, but maybe he'll do it for us. It's just like, it's not gonna, like, I respect Darvin Ham. I think that he's saying the right things, and he's towing the party line and doing what he has to do. Of course, like, what do you expect him to say in these interviews? Like, nah, I don't want Russ. Like, that's can
you imagine?
Like, yeah, it would be hilarious, like, from our perspective, but yeah, that's not gonna happen. He's gonna say like, I definitely think that Russ is going to lock down on defense and do all of these things that like he theoretically should be able to do, but has never done, like it's just, he has to say that for now because they have to act like they're willing to bring Russ into camp. It's like both sides are holding themselves hostage and waiting for the other side to save them. They're like, no, we'll do this really dumb thing if you don't stop us. Like, watch us. Yeah. We'll bring KD and Kyrie into camp. You can't stop us. Give us 2 first-round picks. Save us from ourselves.
From everything I've heard so far about Darvin Ham is like everyone kind of says that he's the right pick for when it comes to like, I guess because he doesn't deal with bullshit. Like he's like pretty straightforward and like doesn't put up with shit. Do you really feel like that in this scenario? I mean, obviously I do feel like Russ is going to get traded at some point, but if it doesn't happen, which it can happen, right? Like, do you think like it's gonna happen, right?
I think it has to happen. I don't buy that there's any scenario where they bring him back. I mean, they can say whatever they want, and they've been saying, I've had the run it back bit, all off season, joking around about like, how excited I'd be for them to run it back and how they're trying to act like they're excited. They're just gonna, it's like they blew up the title team, they blew up the 2021 team, but this is the team. They're finally gonna keep it together. No, I totally buy into it, and it's just that they all. It's like I said, they all saw what happened last year, and I think Darvin knows that. And Darvin is a guy where if you watch any of his media availabilities, if you kind of like watch how he talks and watch how he goes about his business, he's very matter of fact, extremely charismatic, strong presence. Like he's the type of guy that I don't think that he would put up with the ways that Russ was responding to coaching last year. And there are multiple accounts. There have been things written about his time with the Bucks where he was almost sort of like he was the designated, like, I'm going to go yell at some guys and I'm going to hold every single guy on this roster accountable, whether it's Giannis or whether it's the 15th man, in the exact same way. And, I do think that there is value in having someone like that while you're trying to reestablish this culture that sort of was allowed to rot, for lack of a better term, last year. And I do think that we so often see in these coaching cycles where the team goes with the exact opposite, like kind of demeanor or style or whatever it may be of their past coach. And Frank Vogel, super nice guy, just really easy, go along, get along. Like he was great when you had a team that already wanted to do the things that Frank Vogel wanted to do. Like in 2020, they had a bunch of guys that really wanted to play defense and, were willing to commit to playing the exact style that Frank Vogel wanted to play. But as soon as you handed him a roster that was kind of like, I don't know if I'm really feeling drop coverage tonight, coach. Like, I just like, I don't know if I want to make that rotation. Like, and he was like, all right, sounds good, Russ. It's just like, he was very, I don't want to say a pushover because obviously he's not. And like, that's overly strong, but he was more easygoing and like a lighter personality where I feel like Darvin is going to be willing to call guys out a little bit more than Frank was.
Yeah, I agree. And I know one of the best jokes that you had, the running jokes that you had this past season was Kendrick Nunn. I mean, like all-star break, and he'd be like, well, we can't really judge this team until Kendrick comes back.
Well, no, it wasn't even just about Nunn, because obviously, like it's not just like an injury thing. It's just like at some point, like we have to judge what we're seeing. And like it wasn't just Nunn. It was like the first time when red flags for me went up about this season was when Frank Vogel gave like a 10-minute diatribe on why they were really waiting for Trevor Ariza to unlock their full identity. And it's like, well, if you're waiting for like 35-year-old Trevor Ariza to come back and unlock the way that you want to play, like I'd question why you built your team around 35-year-old Trevor Ariza. It's just like they're, on a minimum contract. It's like, I don't know if Trevor Ariza is the super glue that is holding this thing together. I'm a little worried about kind of the situation going on here. And it's just like, we kept seeing these like serious tweets of like, oh, well, it's hard to judge this team until Trevor Ariza or Kendrick Nunn comes back. Like we had like people going on podcasts. It's like, yeah, Kendrick Nunn, that was a big loss for them. And like, I agree, like in a vacuum, like Kendrick Nunn would have been a helpful player for them, but Kendrick Nunn was not why they fell apart last season. It's not like, oh, with Kendrick Nunn in there, I think that's 62 wins. It's just like.
So, okay, no, here's the thing. I'm very hopeful about Kendrick Nunn. It's unfortunate that what happened with him, because the bone bruise in the right knee literally took him out 82 games. A lot of people are like, come on, man, like 82 games out for a bone bruise. Come on. And I know a lot of Laker fans are mad at the fact that he picked up his player option, but I'm somebody as an NBA fan that is rooting for Kendrick Nunn, mostly because on eBay, I'm not sure if you could see it, but I keep on buying his rookie cards for like $5 and they're graded 10. And so I have like a bunch of Kendrick Nunn cards like stocks, and I'm hoping that he wins most improved player, or I hope that he bounces back next year.
Oh, so you're like literally invested in this. That's impressive.
He has money on him.
You're putting your $5 where your mouth is. It's like
I'm almost going to Vegas, and I'm going to put whatever the odds are for him to win most improved player of the year next year. Like I'm putting money on him to win it, because that's how confident I am to do that.
Zach's greedy.
Is this like the comedian version of a 401k? Like, is this?
Yeah,
just like investing in like trading cards of players that you hope are gonna like go boom after a down year. No, but like Nunn, he obviously, I understand why Lakers fans were frustrated. That doesn't sound like a serious injury, but like I've talked to doctors and people who deal with patients who go through this stuff. Like literally, like it can just affect your ability to move, especially if it's on. Like think about it, basketball players. Like your knee's kind of important. It's like if you have an injury, it's like, oh man, like it's his non-shooting elbow. I mean, like maybe you can get by that. It's a little uncomfortable, but you could play and stuff like that. But if it's your knee, like what do you want him to do? Hop around out there? You want him to play on crutches? Like it's like he can't, at some level, like he can't, like if he can't ramp up, and every single time he ramps up, like it's getting worse, like he's got to sit out. And apparently this can be a really nagging, persistent injury. And it sounds like, I believe that he said at his exit interview that he was planning to be cleared for basketball activities like pretty much then. And it's like, all right, well, that's like kind of a tone deaf thing to announce at your exit interview after there was like literally a game last night. But anyway, like him opting in was the best case scenario for the Lakers in terms of just like having more guys that are not on the minimum, because if he left, he was their mid-level exception signing last year. They were able to use the mid-level exception again this year. They used it on Lonnie Walker, but if Kendrick Nunn left, they couldn't just sign like a $5.6 million or $5.9 million, whatever he's making exactly, player, to replace him. They would have only had the minimum available. And so the hope, I'm sure, for them is that, now we got two mid-level guys like, Talen Horton-Tucker, hopefully he bounces back. Like there are reasons to kind of bank on some improvement and growth just happening from parts of this roster that were around last year. Like Austin Reeves will probably be better, just by virtue of going into a second year. But that's also not something where you can like, where again, you could turn around and convince me like, oh, we're just going to run it back with Russ because, Austin Reeves, like his defense will be a little better this year. And I think it's going to be fine. You just add Kendrick Nunn as an extra playmaker. This is all going to work. Those were just the missing pieces.
So Nunn, so there's a good chance, like a 99% chance Nunn's going to play, right, this coming season?
I mean, barring some other injury, I don't see how he wouldn't. That would, at that point, that's the longest bone bruise in the history of humankind, I feel like. Like if he's still out in training camp, then like they're kind of like, I would be forced to assume that there was something fishy going on there, just because like, that thing can last for months and things like that. But I would imagine that it's the off season. Like he has a full, kind of summer to get ready for training camp. I would assume that he'll be back and ready to play this year, unless this is like a more serious problem than we have been led to believe, which I have no reason to believe that at this point.
And I know a lot of Laker fans are saying we should still trade Nunn. Like if there is a major trade that involves Russell Westbrook, would you throw Kendrick Nunn as an asset, or would you be okay? Because I know you're talking about how he was the other mid-level exception.
Yeah, so I mean, it would depend on who they were getting back and if they needed him for salary reasons. Like, if they're doing it because they can get, like, let's just say, like, hypothetically, I don't have the exact math in front of me, and I'm, I barely passed college math anyway. But, like in terms of salary matching stuff, like if they had to include him to be able to get back, Joe Harris and Royce O'Neal or something like that, and you're getting back guys who like theoretically fit better than Nunn does and are like maybe better. Like, I don't know if Joe Harris is a better player considering all his injury woes or whatever at this point and what you can expect out of him with all the stuff that he's dealt with. But, like Seth Curry's another name that's been mentioned that might potentially be in this trade. Like, depending on what you're getting back, like I would not be, I certainly don't think that Nunn is untouchable, but in terms of just like building this roster and free agency, and if trades don't go down, like him opting in, even if trades do go down, like having an extra $5 million to include in a trade to potentially get back another good player, or like a better player than you're able to get otherwise, like that is helpful for a variety of reasons, whether it's on the court or just on the books.
Like even with like the little improvements that they've done so far this offseason, like obviously I think we all agree that Russ is probably going to be gone. I mean, that's already going to be like an upgrade from last year, right? Like you would think,
that's like addition by subtraction, basically. Like provided that they trade his like if they were to stretch him, out or something like that, or they were to just buy him out, or they were to just say, hey, Russ, like just do the John Wall thing, just go sit at home, like we don't need you, like this is fine. Like if they do that, then I do think that in terms of just like overall talent on the roster, then obviously that's a subtraction. And like you're just at some level, Russ, for as bad as he was last year, he still was a guy that played like 35 minutes a game or somewhere around there. Like that's valuable in the NBA to just have someone that can soak up that many minutes to some degree. Again, this is not me arguing for like Russ is like a positive asset for the Lakers or whatever, or the team should be giving up stuff to get him. I'll leave that to Rob Pelinka when he's on his trade calls with Sean Marks. But like, I think that Russ, I think that turning him into productive NBA players for that same amount of salary is going to be a win almost no matter who is coming back, just because he was such a poor fit and is at such a high number.
Now, do you think we'll be as competitive as far as like, against the defending champs, the Golden State Warriors? Do you think we'll like, with depending on who we get, obviously, and if, Russ is gone, depending on who we get, do you think as far as who we have, as far as talent, I know it's too early to kind of say because, there's still pieces that have to be moved and such. Do you think we can at least be competitive, like at least the top 5?
Yeah, I mean, if they get Kyrie back, I do think that they have a real chance to make a playoff run, get it, like health and luck and all that stuff permitting. Yeah. I certainly don't think that they would be the favorites, just because, we all watched what happened to the favorites that was featuring Kyrie Irving last year. And like, how that stuff can change in a hurry, and they, people can wear on each other, and we will see if LeBron is still as excited about his reunion with Kyrie Irving in December as he is right now. And, there's all these things can change. And so that's why I wouldn't bank on them. Like I would not go and start buying like Kyrie Irving rookie cards on eBay and like counting on that investment to go boom. But like I do think that they would be in the contention conversation, just because that big three is so strong and they fit so well together on paper that, you get a bounce back year from AD. Hopefully he stays healthy. LeBron, obviously, like you probably factor in like a little bit of a decline just because of age, but hopefully it's not that steep. Kyrie, hopefully he can stay healthy and like continues to want to play basketball. And, then like if you have those three guys together, they do fit really well. Kyrie and AD would be like kind of a monstrous 2-man game, to say nothing of LeBron and AD. That is a much better fitting trio than Russ, LeBron, and AD ever was. And I say that even as someone who is a Russ edition optimist and was proved hilariously wrong.
Let me just say real quick that Kendrick Nunn is the penny stock of eBay cards. And Kyrie Irving costs $100, so I tried and I couldn't. But
Kendrick Nunn is like the Dogecoin of
to the moon.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. So kind of going off, I'm glad you asked that question, Mark, because I'm looking at the two teams that were in the finals, and they were team oriented. The Nets, I mean, as much as they were superstar dominated, they really fell apart. Obviously, you look at the Lakers, we fell apart. So, I mean, I feel as if the NBA always has this. The NBA is a beautiful sport because it has a way of resetting itself, of going back to the team oriented stuff. So, how can the Lakers find that way? And does it involve actually having to get new superstars like Luka Doncic?
Yeah, I mean, Luka, I don't even know like that. I don't even know when he's a free agent or whatever. You know, maybe they did send Jason Kidd as like a double agent there to start recruiting him, you know, just like planting the seeds down the line. No, I think, you know, the Lakers, part of the reason of bringing in Darvin, I think, was starting to just change the culture, change like how, you know, guys are held accountable, the types of things that they're buying into, the types of system that they're playing, you know, just getting a lot of guys around that can sort of like hold the players accountable in a way that, you know, to be honest, like, again, I was not like a huge fan of Jason Kidd as a coach, like prior to his Lakers stint or anything like that. But I do think that, like, just from a locker room perspective, they did miss his presence last year. And I think people with the Lakers would even tell you that like they missed having that like guy with sort of the gravitas to call out LeBron, to call out AD. Like that was not Frank. And so like, you know, for all of his strengths as a coach, that was just not who he was. And so I do think that having like sort of that team wide culture of like, okay, this went horribly last year. We all have egg on our face. We all need to buy in and do whatever it takes to make this work this year. You know, that is what you kind of have to hope is going to happen, and where sort of some of that like kind of team mindset stuff is going to come from. Obviously, the Lakers, you know, in terms of talent, spread out from like 1 through 15 on the roster, are not going to be as talented as those teams. Like they're 6 through 10 or whatever are not going to be as good as, you know, the 6 through 10 on like the Celtics or maybe on like the Warriors, and, you know, or the Warriors actually had some losses, you know, in free agency. And so we'll see how they handle that. But, you know, that was also, I would point to the fact that that was the argument. Like we all remember these dumb discussions during the Lakers playoff run to the title in 2020, right? It's like, well, you know, the Lakers have the best 1 and 2 players in the series, but you know, the Nuggets, they might have like 3 through 8. And it's like, well, it turns out 3 through 8 in the playoffs matters like a lot less than 1 and 2. And so with the Lakers, you're going in like they would almost assuredly start their first round series as like probably the top 3 players in the series, at least one or two of them, 2 of the top 3, depending on, you know, what that matchup is or whatever. And then, you know, when you have that many talented guys that fit well together, like you've seen with health permitting and like good role player contributions, you can go on a run, and it doesn't have to be from, you know, the Lakers did not have like a juggernaut of deep talent that year. They just had a lot of guys that fit really well around LeBron and AD. LeBron and AD balled out, and those guys did their part, and that was enough. But really, like from series to series, like the most consistent Laker was KCP. You know, like Alex Caruso had up and down series, and, you know, like for all of his playoff heroics and how fondly he's remembered for game 6 of the finals, like he wasn't that great in a few of the positive in a few of the previous series, like in terms of shooting the ball and things like that. And so there's, you know, they just have to hope that their role players play well enough when it matters, and that LeBron, AD, and Kyrie are healthy. Or, you know, I'm assuming that Kyrie is in this mix, you know, if we're talking about them in the contention conversation. And then if he's not, then I don't really know that we're talking about the Lakers in the contention conversation. So that's sort of like their one avenue towards that, which again, you know, to take us full circle, that's why the Nets are asking for the 2 first-round picks, because they're like, no, we're not giving you this guy for 1 pick. He's your only hope. Like he's the only chance you have. Like, even though we don't want him, you still got to give us more than that. And so, you know, it is just kind of all going to come down to that leverage off and how much the Lakers have to give up in it.
Kind of going back to the Jason Kidd part, I mean, the assistant coach part does make sense. You made a good point. And this got me thinking, because I just forgot about him. I feel as if a lot of Laker fans have forgot about him. But Rasheed Wallace is now the assistant coach for the Lakers. Do you think...
I don't know that he's official yet. Like that kept getting leaked as it was like close. And then like, I think like Darvin said that he was like in consideration, but I don't know that we've gotten the like, it like he's officially signed on like report yet.
Oh, okay. I just saw a YouTube video, so I should not trust anything that comes up on YouTube.
Oh my God, you fell for YouTube misinformation on the podcast?
You guys, I'll delete all the flat earth videos later. I'm sorry about that.
Well, look, it's just you were looking up Kyrie Irving highlights, and it just got like, and like it just your algorithm started suggesting those to you.
Yeah. Where were you January 6th, Zach? I want to know now. Where are you really at?
I was in the proximity. But okay, how would you feel about Rasheed Wallace? Because when I think of Rasheed Wallace, I think of technicals. But I also think maybe this is something that could give the backbone to Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I honestly think that part of that is going to be Ham. Like, I think that he is a guy that is going to, not put up with a lot of that stuff and is going to kind of push Anthony Davis in ways that maybe he wasn't being pushed. I think we saw what was Anthony Davis's best year in LA. It was the year when everybody wrote him off and was talking about how, the Lakers gave up too much for him. He's not worth all this drama, all this stuff. And he came out with a vengeance and put up probably statistically the best season of his career, certainly in terms of professional success, the best season of his career by far in 2020. And so, I think that the hope is maybe that like he sees all the talk this summer, all the street clothes stuff, whatever, and that he comes back, has a little bit better injury luck and is like motivated from all of these things. And, in terms of Rasheed Wallace, like he would seem to be the type of guy that would be able to, like, as a former star player and as a guy who probably feels like he left some stuff on the table in terms of his career and like maybe could have, if he had approached certain things a different way from a health perspective, from like a body maintenance perspective, probably could have been, one of these guys that we're talking about as more than just the king of technicals, and like he was obvious, like he was a great player, like all the kind of antics and, the NBA record, I think for technicals in a season, like all that stuff does distract from the fact that like Rasheed Wallace was a problem, like during his prime, like, I don't have to tell you guys this, like you're old enough, like I'm old enough to remember, I think probably every Laker fan listening is old enough to remember the 2005 finals or 2004. I always mix that year up when it was
Pistons.
Yes, 04. It was 04
NBA
finals. Yeah.
Yes.
When Rasheed Wallace did, things that are like illegal in 37 states to Luke Walton, like while he was trying to defend him in the post. And like, it's just like Rasheed was really good. But he probably could have had a longer career, had a more effective career, had he focused on some of that stuff. And so maybe that's kind of the thought process with that, is bringing in kind of another versatile big, that someone that Anthony Davis probably looks up to a degree, or at the very least can like see what he did in his career and respect him and value his input. And, especially if he's saying, hey, I wish that I had worked on X, Y, and Z while I was still in my prime. And like, if I had the athletic gifts of you, like that you have, like I would have done this and this and this. And I do think that having guys in the locker room that players can relate to on that level is something that's really valuable. I mean, that was why LeBron always was like a diehard Jason Kidd guy, because Jason Kidd is one of the few people in basketball history that could probably claim to have the same level or a similar level of floor vision as LeBron does. And so there's like a natural respect that comes there. And so maybe, in terms of like versatile big man, that's something there with like AD and Rasheed Wallace. And also we know just like a strong personality who, like, if AD is like, I don't know, I don't really want to play the 5 right now. Like Rasheed Wallace, like that's not going to fly.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, hey, you're gonna play the 5. Like, okay.
Yeah, he's like, you're gonna play the 5 or I'm gonna get out there and play the 5. Like,
yeah. Which I saw Thomas Bryant. So because Thomas Bryant's gonna be, I know they said that he's gonna compete for the starting center job, but there's a good chance he's gonna be our starting center then, right?
On paper, he would seem to be the best fit for how Darvin has said that he wants to play, in terms of like having that 4-out system, kind of one rim runner, like AD, like if his idea of like 4 out is that AD is one of the spacers, I don't know if that's how well that's going to work, because AD, has been like down shooting the ball. And, he's been working this summer on his shot with Lethal Shooter. That actually led to, people make the jokes about Lethal Shooter and whatever. And I get it. He makes it easy with like the Instagram hype videos, but like he's a guy that like when he worked with AD and KCP, like led to real improvements in their shooting. And so like, maybe AD can be that floor spacer around Damian Jones. And that's kind of how they get to that 4 out. But in terms of like what we've seen over on percentages from AD over the last couple of years, Thomas Bryant would seem to be on paper the type of stretch big that you'd want to play alongside him, where, you still have some of that size. Like AD can kind of defend the rim on defense. Thomas Bryant can maybe take some of those 4s or, or vice versa, stuff like that. Like, help out with some of the rebounding and then space the floor on the other end. He would seem to be sort of in a similar mold to like, again, these are not the same players by any means in terms of pedigree or whatever, but a lot like what they wanted from like Marc Gasol alongside AD in terms of just like a bigger guy that can space the floor, still kind of play a little bit of a traditional 5 role on defense. Now, again, like Marc Gasol is one of the best defensive players in NBA history. Thomas Bryant is not that or anywhere close. And so we'll see what he can provide there. But offensively, that would seem to be the best fit to me.
So, I mean, we were just talking about Thomas Bryant, Marc Gasol. I also think when it comes to the other options that you have in the free agency, who else can you get out there when that's open? Like, is there anybody else left open in free agency that you can grab?
Yeah, I mean, not really as of right now, just because the Lakers, I believe, are at 14 roster spots currently, or they might be at 13. I know they just signed Max Christie, their draft pick. But like I think they're at 13 or 14. So number one, they don't have that many spots left. And right now they do have to leave spots open for if they make an uneven Kyrie trade, because if they trade for Kyrie, by definition, they're going to be taking back probably more players than they're sending out, because if they even just to match Russ, the Nets would have to include at least one more player to match salaries and make that move work legally, even if it was just a straight up like 2-for-1 trade or something like that. So the Lakers do need some open roster spots. So I don't know that we're going to see like high impact free agency signings, also just because like those guys are not really left on the market.
Also, going off of the Anthony Davis lethal shooter thing, were you someone that was like, who cares what lethal shooter has to give an update about Anthony Davis? Like, this was literally a week or two after the dude said he hadn't touched a ball in 2 months. Or are you?
That was a very funny, damn it. No, it was not a week or two after. It was like a day after he was getting flamed on Twitter for like that comment in a YouTube video where he's like, I haven't touched the ball since like, he's like doing the math in his head. He's like, when was our last game? April? I haven't been outside. I've just been playing GTA online. And like, like he's like, I haven't shot a ball since then. And then it's like, a day or two later, lethal shooter's like, oh, so happy to be working with my brother Anthony Davis, putting in hours in the gym. And it's like, LeBron got on the text chain and was like, AD, like what the fuck is this clip? Like,
yeah, hey. But do you know what? It's funny because like when AD said that, I kind of was like with us in comedy, like I like to take breaks. Like sometimes it feels good, like to just take a break, like it's a little sabbatical. So like I kind of felt like, and AD kind of had a rough year, dealing with injuries and such. So I kind of felt like it was justified.
Do you have like a lethal jokester that you go to kind of get back in comedy shape? It's just like, is there like an Instagram comedian helper that like comes in and helps you workshop jokes and you take like a picture with your arm around afterwards?
I should. Actually, it's funny you say that because
you should do that. You should become lethal jokester. You could just be the guy, the trainer to the comedians,
You know what's funny? I do have a lot of comedians that text me jokes. Like when things happen, especially when tragedies happen, they go, okay, I got to send this to you. Let me know if it's funny or not, if I should tweet it. I was like, oh yeah, it's funny, but you should do this and say that instead.
You're their quality control for Twitter? That's not a good sign for whoever these people are. If they're like, oh, like, I guess maybe that's like the lowest possible bar. It's like, well, if Mark says no to this, then I know it's a bad idea. Like,
then I'm going to hell. Then I'm going to hell.
Yeah, I'm like, the worst you can do is get blocked. That's it. Like, yeah, whatever. Like, people are complaining about it. But I do actually, I watch a lot of Don Rickles videos and a lot of like Browning Dangerfield interviews, and I get back in my head Ralphie May videos, stuff like that. So I guess I do have my own lethal comedian roster, I guess. But I mean, I think work-life balance is important. I think for all of us, like when you, like, I'm sure when anyone listening to this, if you work like, like a 60-hour week at some point or a 50-hour week, like you try to take some time off the next week if possible, or, in the future or whatever, and get some of that like recoup time, if you can. Like we all kind of as human beings need breaks. We can't grind like 24/7. And so I think AD, especially like someone that was trying to get healthy again after like a really banged up, injury riddled 2 seasons, staying away from the court, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a doctor and I know what is the best decision for him and what is the best course of action. Like we'll see. I think that, there are people that have said that like getting some rest and just focusing on kind of mental stuff could be good. And, there's obviously like the Twitter critics who are like, I want to see him in the gym every single day. Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm sure the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle there in terms of like what's best for him, but I'm not going to pretend like I know better than his trainers on like what his off-season routine and regimen should be. Because as someone who is also very injury prone and has never figured out how to beat it, like I'm not going to pretend like I can give AD advice on like what to do to avoid injuries. I would love to see that though. You go, hey, tap on his shoulder. Hey,
like AD, my back hurts a lot, like more when I sit at a desk for a long time. Is that anything? Does that help you? Or are you just like, are you gaming in a gaming chair too much? Is there enough lumbar support? I don't know. Like,
I kind of feel like as much as we all miss Kobe and I miss Kobe. Obviously, we all do. Like, I feel like he kind of he didn't ruin like calling in sick, but as far as like the heat that Twitter gave AD for that, like I felt like a lot of that was because of Kobe Bryant's
yeah, I mean,
constant,
this
like,
is a fan
grind,
base
right?
that reacts to that stuff differently
Yeah.
because what did most of us grow up on in terms of like our superstar, like the guy that we grew up in, we're like, that's what a superstar looks like, and
Yeah.
it's the guy that's in the gym at 3 a.m. and that's not how every single star has approached it. I mean, even MJ, for as much propaganda and I think rightfully so in some ways as there is about his work ethic, like he was in the casinos at 3 a.m. Like where like that was where he was getting his work in, and he was still he still won 6 titles. Like I think that there's these guys, there's scales, and they're all different in terms of how they approach it, and that doesn't mean that I don't know that there are obviously wrong ways to do it, but I don't know that there's one right way. And so I do think that like Kobe, he set a standard for what that looks like, but not every single guy has to approach it exactly like that, even if you can respect the ones that do.
Now, do you think it kind of made Twitter a little bit more toxic now? Because I mean, you can compare like the last 10 years. I feel obviously, we went.
I feel like the world has made Twitter more toxic. Yeah. I think I think that's just like the state of like society. I don't know if we could blame like Kobe's 3 a.m. Olympic workouts for that.
But do you notice like amongst like, because dude, like there's times I'll jump on Twitter and it's just like, fuck, all you guys just argue with each other. Like someone actually, I have a couple friends that like was a part of like that group that we all came up on, and now it's just like he told me, he goes, I feel like these days it's just about arguing and like just kind of just like saying things for the sake of saying it, and it's not even like about like basketball anymore. It's just about hot takes and or saying like ridiculous things. And do you feel like it's just kind of going that route now, where it's just like, hey guys, this is basketball, like can we all kind of get along a little bit?
I have like mixed feelings on this in terms of like basketball, just because like I think that part of it is my sample size is skewed, because like when I came in like a couple of years ago, like I had way less followers. So of course, like when you're interacting with people, it's like other people who just like followed you because they liked your basketball takes, like they wanted to get along with you, like they vibed with your writing, they thought one of your tweets was funny, whatever it is. Like the smaller your platform, like the less argument you're going to get. Where I do feel like for me, like as like my following has increased, it's like people. So, I mean, I have my friends and stuff and whatever, and like I mute and block pretty liberally, so I don't get like as much like arguments and like and I don't even mind arguments, but like hate and like over the line stuff as I used to before I started being a little bit more liberal about like just kind of muting, blocking, whatever. But like most of the time, this is something that I've talked to a bunch of writers about on like just as far as social media goes, and one of the things that I've really tried to kind of hold myself to is like, think about your Twitter replies, or like Twitter is like, it's almost like Yelp reviews basically. And if you go to a restaurant's Yelp page review, like they might have like 55-star ratings, but most of them don't come with like a paragraph of text attached to it. It's just like, yeah, I like the restaurant, 5-star rating. It's like whereas like the 1-star ratings, you're getting a 500-word essay on why this is the worst restaurant and you had the worst service in the history of humankind. And I feel like that's sort of what Twitter is like, is people don't reach out to you to just be like, oh, hey, great point, Harrison. I really agreed with what you said there. It's like they hit the like button and they move on. And where like, if somebody's mad at you and they disagree, they're like, oh, go jump off a bridge. Like, it's just like, there's no middle ground between those two things. It's the like button, or like, you're the worst person imaginable. This is not funny. I'm going to unfollow you. And it's like, okay.
Here's the thing. Because the Yelp review thing is so spot on. If I'm trying to leave a positive review for something that I like, I'm having a hard time just trying to go past one sentence of like, this was great. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, you're just a negative person, Zach. You can't hold everyone else.
Whereas like, if it was a 1-star review and I've only left like 1 or 2 of those, I will literally recount the reasons. Like I'll rehash the whole story as to why it was a disaster.
You're gonna give them like a 10 reasons this place sucks BuzzFeed listicle. Like it's
with pictures.
I'll even go like chronological order. I'm like, I got there at 10 o'clock. They didn't open the door until 10:05, and then blah blah blah.
This is the worst place ever. Do not do business with them.
But
I will say for Harrison, when Flea reached out, when Flea tweets you, I pop every time. I'm always like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, that trips me out every single time. Like he and I've like talked a couple of times, and it's like, it's so weird every single time because he's like so famous, and it's still like, it seems weird that like someone like that would ever, engage with anything that I do. Or like, when Halsey followed me from her basketball account, that like blew my mind. Like that was a big day for me.
But of course, I mean, go ahead, Zach.
Is there any
but it's like
NBA
stuff like that is cool, but it's also like you have to realize like it's like a really it's a really toxic place, like, and that's just like sort of how all of social media is. I think that's how I think there's, again, I went to school for psychology before dropping out, so I'm not qualified to like diagnose the psychological makeup of our society, but I do feel like things, all of us being locked indoors, all of us having access to like this many easy ways to tell someone to go fuck themselves, like probably not help. Like our brains were not designed to process this volume of like input and output and social interaction. I feel like it's progressively gotten worse.
It's too much.
But again, I say that as someone who like that's as my following has increased. So of course there's more negativity. Like,
yeah, go Mark, and then I'll just have a quick question.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just saying. It feels that way. It feels like it's just kind of like, because I feel like technology is really like the reason why everyone's so like just toxic and negative, is because
I don't think that it's helped. Like I genuinely don't. And I say that as someone who like, I never would have met you without Twitter. Like I never would have met either of you guys without that. Like I've made some of my best friends, like Anthony is a groomsman in my wedding, and like I never would have met him without Twitter. And so there's obviously for me professionally, personally, like it's been great, but there's also like a lot of negative that comes with it. And I feel like that's every social media. I feel like all of them have their pluses and their drawbacks. And I just think that like, I've always just sort of felt like I don't know that we were meant to have this many interactions with people on a day-to-day basis, just as humans. Like we went from like, like you have to like send somebody like a fax if you wanted to talk to them, or like an email or something, to like all of a sudden you can get like 10 replies to like some thought that you fired off at like 10 a.m. in like 10 minutes. It's just it's just a lot.
Okay, so I'm looking at your Twitter account right now. It's over 75,000 followers. From Fleet and Halsey, who are some other ones that you're like, I can't believe they're following me? This is pretty big deal.
I mean, now given the news cycle, honestly, a lot of them are. It's gonna make me sound really nerdy, but a lot of them are like other media people that like I really respect. Like Zach Lowe was like, Zach Lowe is like someone that like and I've told him this, I read him all the time, like religiously in community college. Like he was someone that got me into blogging, like I don't know if either of you guys remember, but the Point Forward days when he was at SI, like blogging like 5 times a day. And like, he like inspired the hell out of me. And he was someone that like, obviously I can't bring his level of basketball insight, but I always just love the way that he, could be really insightful, but he was clearly having a blast while doing it and having fun with it. And I think that he's only continued to get better at that and grow and whatever. And like, obviously now he's like huge ESPN personality. They realized they found a star, but like, he's someone that like I really respect. And just like, there's all these people in like the media space. So like, that is one where it's like people that you really look up to. Mark Stein, like getting to interact with him has been like one of the highlights of my career. Is like just great dude, fellow Cal State Fullerton Titan, been like an amazing mentor to me. Like, like it's people like that for the most part.
Okay, to go off
Mark Gonzales, when I got the Mark Gonzales follow back, like,
I was about to say, because I used to read Woj when he was back on Yahoo Sports Days, so that was like 2 decades ago with Jeff Passan on MLB.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if Woj were to follow you, would you be like, oh my god, this is it, checkmate?
Yeah, I mean, I would really question his decision making if he were to do that. Like, I feel like there are more important people for him to follow. But yeah, no, I think that would, stuff like that is huge. Like it's cool. Like, it sounds stupid to say, and like on some level it is. Like, why do I care? And like on some level I shouldn't. But also we're all vain, and like as human beings, it's cool to know that people that like we respect, also were interested in our viewpoints on stuff, and so like that kind of stuff is cool always.
Have you been watching anything in particular? I'm always like picking everyone's brain about this. Like, for example, did you watch Stranger Things? Do you watch it?
I've never seen Stranger Things, not even a second of it. My wife is really into it, and like I have not ever kind of bit the bullet and like jumped in. It's just like at some point on TV, like it's like, oh, you're too many seasons in, I'm not catching up. Like I missed the wave. Like I don't know if I'm gonna have time to binge all this, like whatever. We've been watching We Own the City recently on HBO, the HBO series. That's been really, it's about like police corruption in Baltimore, which is, obviously extremely heavy subject matter, but it's good. It's like well acted. We just finished up The Boys, which was like season 4 was incredible, hilarious, like every step of the way. And so yeah, that's been like Miss Marvel. We got to finish up and catch up. We watch all the Marvel stuff. Like I just saw Thor last night. Thought it was okay. I really enjoy Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and so like for me that was good enough, like worth the price of admission. Not a great movie, but it was like totally watchable with like solid performances.
And obviously you have a podcast with your wife called Rewind and Reconsider. I actually just got done listening to the Mulan episode. That was like not your last episode, but the episode before.
Yeah. We've been running through we are doing a Disney princess movie marathon, which like at the beginning was testing the length, like the limits of my sanity, and like the movies have gotten better as we've gone on. But like the early ones, it's tough to sit through and watch them all. Like
Mulan held up. I mean, like
yeah, Mulan held up. Mulan was good.
Yeah, Mulan was one of my favorite movies growing up.
That's the one movie I actually skipped. I think the last time I seen a Disney movie, I want to say it might have been. No, wait, not Toy Story. No, wait, was it Toy Story 3? Yeah, I think it was Toy Story 3. I just thought it was too ridiculous though for being a Toy Story movie.
Toy Story 3 is really good. It's Toy Story 4 was just like okay. Like because my wife is like a Disney fanatic, and so I end up watching all these. But like we're doing this podcast right now, and she's like, "Oh my god, like you never saw like this movie?" And I'm like, "No, I was like 17 when this came out. Like I was not going by myself to like a Disney movie, like in theaters or whatever, like."
So wait, are you the person that gets dragged to Disneyland?
I would not say dragged anymore. I actually enjoy it now. It was like an acquired taste for me. It was something that I never thought that I would like, but I definitely like, I'm more into it now. Not as into it as she is, but like I it's fun to see her get that excited.
It's funny to say that because like I one of the reasons why I can't stand Disneyland is because of the people, out of all things. It's just that everyone's rude and everyone just pushes and everyone's in your way. But these last couple of times I've been there, I'm like, oh, we're kind of liking that.
It is a place. It's like a relaxing place, depending on how you approach it. But yeah, like if you're trying to like fight and like run to like the the newest ride, whatever it is, it's like it's a real dogfight in there. And like there, you will never see more joy and entitlement in one place, as you will at Disneyland. It's like you have like these kids who are like over the moon, and then they're excited just to like be out and like experiencing like all this stuff that they've watched on TV and movies and whatever, as their parents yell at like some poor underpaid cashier like that it's like the ride the line's not moving fast enough at the ride or something, and it's like, this is our one vacation. It's like, congrats lady, it's like everyone else is here one vacation too. Like I'm sorry, it's a crowded place. Like
I just feel as if it's filled with a lot of people who don't deserve to, or not deserve, but like a lot of people that shouldn't be there. Like if you're a woman who's beyond the age of 30 and you're just by yourself with a bunch of other girls your age, you guys should not be there by yourselves.
I'm not going to touch that because that's going to be my wife, and I'm not going to say how many years, but in a few years, that will probably be her with some of her friends. So it's okay. I won't tell her about it. You could cut this part of the podcast.
No, like, because
at Zach, at so it's Zach, and all your hate, all your toxic hate tweets to at so it's Zach.
I was actually close to dating a girl, but the reason why it was like the thing that broke the whole everything apart was because she had a Disneyland pass, and I saw her spending too much time at Disneyland. I'm like, this is something I cannot do.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not going to touch that, but like I
know Zach. What the hell?
I did end up getting us Disneyland passes, and so I became that guy. I've like fully converted now.
I don't mind that you're like, as long as you took on the role and you're like,
no, you're offending my religion now. This is unbelievable.
I will not say anything about Club 33 anymore, as long as from the Mickey, the mouse, and everything else, the Holy Trinity.
Like how you did the sign of the Walt. Is that what that is?
The sign of the Walt.
It's a W, right?
Yeah. It's a W. May he be cryogenically frozen in peace.
I know. I always love how that was like always like the weird like rumor, which
I've chosen to believe it. I don't even care if it's not true at this point. Look, we all get one conspiracy that we get to believe in, and I'm choosing like Walt. Walt is going to come back and like he's gonna personally fight in court to make sure that the Mickey Mouse copyright does not pass. They're bringing him back for that, for the 90th anniversary.
It was on The Simpsons, so it must be true, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. When he comes back, we'll all tweet The Simpsons did it first meme.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Harrison, for joining us again. It was great spending a whole hour with you on this solo episode away from the old station. And we love to have you back again. And again, congratulations on your marriage next month.
Man, congrats.
Yeah, thanks guys. I'm excited. Well, yeah, I mean it's weird we're married, but like we're having like the wedding because we did the wedding at like the height of the pandemic basically, just to make sure that she had insurance, because we were planning to get married then anyway. We were not planning on a pandemic. So it's going to be nice to get to celebrate with all our friends and stuff like that outdoors next month and do all that stuff.
There you go, man. Well, congratulations once again. And like I said, I'd love to see you all. Love to see you blossoming with all your success, and may you continue and keep keep defending the honor of the purple and gold.
Yeah, long may I reign. Do the sign of the wall, like
sign of the wall.